Shall we start? Yeah?
I think so.
Okay,
You're
so-
good?
So just
And
wait for my thumb.
I will wait for your
Yeah.
beautiful thumb. Yes. Thank you, Simon. Hi. I'll wait for this. Hello, hello. Welcome the ones who are here with us in the room and the ones who are joining us online. My name is Luea Ritter and I have the great honor to guide us through this next 45 minutes together. So I want to welcome you from the bottom of my heart to this session, a session that is a bit innovative during this COP, a session that we are trying to answer to come together for listening deeply, taking time to reflect, and maybe even possibly slow down a little bit. As we all care, I do think, and as delegates and actors in the field of UNFCCC, really sensing in of how can our diversity actually contribute to more coherence in the field. So I'm coming with this question today: on what soil are we standing, literally but also metaphorically, and on what soil do we want to build? What culture do we want to enable for what's yet to come? And what do we want to truly give rise to? And in that there is also a question around how do we want to practice? What practices do we really want to ensure that what we are meant to do here is actually infused not only by the right decisions, but also the right ways we are moving forward? I'm going to read a little bit more, just also acknowledging the ones who are here from online with us. So bear with me for a moment of looking down and not only into all of your eyes. What we practice, we will become ultimately good at. If we truly are here to safeguard humanity's coexistence on this planet, it's not only about our decisions, but also how we are in the process to help shift and enable a culture that is truly addressing the intertwined challenges of our times. And at the same time, is also future fit. A culture that puts being in right relationship with each other at the center. The invitation to you all today, present and online, stems from a deep place of care and at the same time also concern. This invitation is, next to many others, inspired by Ilya Prigozhin, who is a physical chemist and philosopher, a Nobel Prize winner, who shares, when a system is far from equilibrium, small islands of coherence have the capacity small islands of coherence in a sea of chaos have the capacity to elevate the entire system to a higher order. And with small islands, we refer here to groups and teams, not huge masses necessarily, that are forming and working from a sense of alignment and a sense of shared clarity. Not being necessarily the same, but actually celebrate the diversity as a richness, as forests do and thrive when they are truly diverse. We know that cultivating presence within and among us is not just an utopia. It's available right here for us, through us. And so in that sense, it has the potential, if not even the power, to help see clearer, help see wider, and help see deeper, for finding that common ground, that shared pathway for the current and the future we want to give shape to, with all the actions and non-actions involved. in a way that does help transcend the differences that we may feel, struggle with, and allow a future that is worthwhile, truly, to give all our best for. And so in that sense, this is an invitation, and I will then hand over to Cecilia, who has kind of instigated us coming here together.
Thank you so much, Luia. Yes, indeed. Yeah, my name is Cecilia Njenga, and I am the Director for Intergovernmental Support and Collective Progress at the UNFCCC. And one of my critical roles is to ensure that parties are building relationship and maintaining and sustaining relationships amongst themselves. And you can imagine how tough that sometimes can be. COP30 is very special, and it's specifically special because we are also celebrating the 10 years of the Paris Agreement. When the Paris Agreement was adopted, to me, it was more than just setting the temperature goal. It created an architecture of trust, and it builds not only on enforcement, but on confidence, on cooperation, and on coherence amongst people of the world. And I do not want to go into the articles. They are very important. But I just want to emphasize that deep within the collaboration, the coherence that we were starting to discuss and converse around, the whole issue of transparency and building an enhanced transparency framework was key, and central to that was the need for us to build mutual trust and confidence amongst each other. And then when they spoke about the collective stocktake, for me it was more than just an exercise. It was a moment to reflect together where we stand and where we are going. Therefore, it's not just procedural. It's not just a procedural mechanism. It's about spaces and creating spaces for relationship building. It's a space for listening and seeing one another beyond our mandates. And we know that trust is fragile. It ebbs and flows with the pressures of negotiation. And this is very critical for us, and we selected Monday as the day to have this event because this is a critical moment when we transition to the political phase. And we know how sensitive and how fragile political processes can also become. It wears on us the weight of the expectation on when we gavel, when the president gavels on Friday, but also the fatigue of the long hours and the tolerance we will need and require from each other in the next few days. I think we are here really to work together, and I do not want to spend too much time talking because I also want to engage, I want to learn, and I want to have a feel from all of you. How can we continue building trust? We are talking about the efficiency of our process, but more so about having outcomes that actually impact and transform human society. So back to you, Luia, and let's get to work.
Thank you so much. So as a first invitation, and I know we are very busy, I would like to invite us just to see how we are sitting right now for one moment. How am I actually feeling in my body? Because this one sustains us to then actually be able to think and come up with hopefully right decisions. So whatever feels comfortable for you, just for the next moment, to actually see how are my feet touching that ground, and knowing below this ground is another ground, which we could call soil, which we could call earth, which we have many, many different names for, depending on which culture we come from. And the next minute, I like to offer you two questions to just for yourself reflect upon, before we then go in groups of 3 for the next 15 minutes to actually share and deeply listen to each other. And if you want, you can also lower your gaze or just become present to the here and now. The question I invite you in is, in your experience, what nurtures and limits trust and coherent collaboration. In your experience, and I emphasize experience, not just thinking, what in your experience nurtures and or limits trust and collaboration? And from there, what is calling to be strengthened, again from your experience, to enable more coherence and more alignment in the UNFCCC process? So what nurtures and limits trust and coherent collaboration? And what do you think can be strengthening coherent and aligned actions in the UNFCCC space? And I'll just give you a few moments to sit with it. If you want, maybe you want to even take something to write it down, or just see, maybe even there is an image coming, or a sensation, or maybe a remembering of a moment where it actually really felt like, oh, yes, this is how it actually could be. So I'll become silent with all of us together. And then with your personal reflection, I invite you to find 2 other people, ideally who you don't know yet. It's probably not too difficult, but nevertheless. And just form like little clusters, little circles with 2 other people. And so for the next 15 minutes, I invite you to share your different thoughts, introduce yourself to each other, and really ensure to really deeply listen to each other. Maybe you want to turn one after the other and then see what emerges from that conversation. Again, with the same questions. What nurtures or limits trust and coherent collaboration? And what's called to be strengthened to enable coherence and alignment within the UNFCCC process? So I invite you to come to a close with your conversation, finish your sentence or your thoughts, and then slowly turn back to us as a whole circle. So can I invite you to all come together? Maybe you want to gather here, do some huddling. So first of all, thank you so much I felt each group was in like deep conversation, inspiring, reflecting, sense-making. And we have now 5 minutes to hear from the 5 groups, so each group about a minute, to just hear the top kind of inspirations or thoughts. And I saw also that some of you have wildly written down. The really intention, as Cecilia also said before, is the beginning of a deeper process. So whatever you bring will be not only waste, but actually harvest for a process ideally moving forward. Which group would like to start? Just sharing a few snippets and golden nuggets.
Thank you so much, Luea. And thank you to my group as well for all the conversation. So I didn't write everything down. We solved the whole problem, by the way. And 15 minutes, I don't know why you've been taking so long, you know. So I think what I have here is one key obstructor of trust is the way that we assume things on behalf of others. A lot of what we talked about is about the division that we have within us, and like within us as individuals, but also in the system of states, you know, how states relate to each other and how they deal with each other, and how a lot of that is about self-preservation and self-interest, and how that translates into a lot of assumptions, whether about understanding the problem. Oh, you didn't tell me. About understanding the problem. So you assumed that I knew. So about understanding the problem and solving the problem. So the pathway, we're assuming that what applies for us, what works for us, is what should apply for others. But then we moved on from this as a way forward to listen to each other a little bit more, to stop doing those assumptions, to understand particularly where the obstructions and the barriers come from, and to enable, I think that's the key word there, to enable those who are obstructing progress that we all desperately need, rather than condemning them, rather than judging them, enabling them, listening to what their problems are and cooperating with them, without actually holding on to whatever advantage that we have, you know, and we create an environment where we're sharing the tools for moving forward, whether it's technology, whether it's raising capacities, and so on.
Thank you very much. Can I just hand over to the next group here for a few insights into your...
Okay, all right, thank you. Can you hear me? All right, so just in the erodes trust section, we had when we stopped talking to each other and we stopped listening to each other, but also a lack of when we don't follow through on things that we've committed to do, and then also sometimes the ingrained room dynamics can contribute to that, can contribute to us not talking and not listening very well. In terms of things that build trust, we had consistency, no surprises, bringing together diverse interests in coalitions behind a common goal, and for those to engage outside the process, as well as inside the process. For example, the high-level coalition. And then also just a reminder that national government positions don't always reflect what's going on ground in communities across the country. So to listen to that. And then in terms of way forward or small actions, we had be brave, to remember that the loudest voices are not always, don't necessarily represent the view, and to make room for diverse voices, to listen before reacting, and to re-energize things, coalitions like the High Ambition Coalition. And thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you so, so much. Can we just hand it over to the next group, maybe there? Yeah.
So most of our points are very similar to what's already been mentioned. So I'll say the only thing that's different and something that erodes trust is a sense of superiority. When you walk into rooms and some people already feel better than others, or a sense of inferiority. So in that sense, then it limits collaboration because we have preconceptions and assumptions about people. And then things that nurture, we wrote being human. Like remembering we are all human beings, in as much as we represent countries, we represent positions, fundamentally we are all human beings facing the same thing. And in terms of the quick action, we didn't really discuss it much, but something that came up was getting back to ourselves. Sometimes you find that by interacting in the process, you start to adopt mannerisms or a way of work that you see reflected within the rooms, and you kind of forget yourself. And so going back to yourself in the sense of acknowledging people, being more human, is something we thought would be useful.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know also that there is a group.
We discussed very much so the same things, in saying that there needs to be a mindset shift in how we walk into the rooms, but also to recognize the more structural and historical context that contribute to some parties and some stakeholders' mindset coming into the rooms, particularly the colonial structures that we live in and the history of marginalization, and to not only work at the mindset but also those deeper structural things. I think we talked a lot about transparency, sort of transparency in the process, but also transparency in the way that we share with each other. And that if we're already coming into this with something protective, then we have something to protect and not something to give. And what was the last thing that we talked about? Oh, I think we also talked about that some things with the intention to do something actually do the opposite. For example, the large amounts of armed people outside the venue for protection, but they give the sense of actually danger and non-cooperation rather than trust. So to be careful about that.
Thank you very much. And I think there is one last group here before we have some closing words.
Hi. So I think on the breach of trust front, we discussed how parties feeling excluded from the process, both in the short and the long term, has ripple effects which show up in negotiations. Not holding true to your word is a simple way of breaching trust. So those were two elements we were talking about through different personal examples. I think on building trust, we were discussing how that is a combination of three elements: your ability, your integrity, and your benevolence. Ability being, can you deliver your technical aspects? Integrity being, are you true to your word? And benevolence being, are you willing to change in the collaborative process? On potential solutions, we discussed, and we had the gift to have Cecilia with us, who holds the UNFCCC Secretariat pen, that process feeling inclusive goes a long way, even if there is disagreement within the different parties. And we were thinking about different ideas of how, for example, spaces like pavilions can be more open and inclusive and collaborative rather than being in different silos. So that was a gift of a conversation we could have because we had the UNFCCC Secretariat sitting with us. I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I refrain now from summarizing that all because this is so rich and to really honoring all of what you've brought together, knowing on each comment there is more to share and name. I would like to hand over now as a closing word to Krista. But thank you so much for even just engaging with each other in that way.
Okay, thank you. So thank you all for coming and being here. So before we move on those closing remarks and closing insights from your side, we would like to know from you, because this is something that we would like to take forward. But we would need to know also, we know you are very busy here and very busy in Capital too. So which frequency would you like to have this conversation on? Can you put some time into every 2 months? I don't want to say anything. This needs to come from you. And if this would be ideal, 2 hours every 2 months online, and then probably we can explore before DSBs having an in-person session again, 2 hours, 3 hours. Please, I would like to hear from you. Yes, you're in? Thank you. What do you say? Yes? Yes. Wow. Thank you so much. Yes, you're in. Okay. So this is a good start. Congratulations to the director, Cecilia, and also to Luea for a great facilitation. I just need to, thank you to everyone for making the time, for being here today. I know it's the beginning of the second week and you have a lot to do. Thank you for doing it in an open and reflective manner. With this deep understanding and willing to listen to each other, really listen to each other, and being away from those negotiation rooms and protecting our positions and interests. This is the beginning. So we hope that these insights won't remain in this room and that you will take it from here to this afternoon meetings and so on until the end of the week, hopefully. We will say Friday. And I just want to recap on what you said, and I had it here. So by being human, again, deeply listening, connecting with the realities of the communities, ensuring this process feels inclusive, and choosing collaboration over silos as we build trust and consensus for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. So thank you all once again, and we look to seeing you forward in this journey. Thanks again for making the time. Thank you.